By the end of this video, you will know some actionable ways to boost your credit score. This is a follow-up to part 1, where I spoke about everything you need to know about your credit score. If you're like me and always wanted to get your score to 999, which is a flex by the way, then this is the place for you. In fact, this is the channel for you. Welcome, I'm Jim, and I'm going to be talking about all things property, investing, and getting a better grip on your personal finances. So if you want to fast track your way to that 999 scene, please destroy the subscribe button below. Before we jump into the tips, and this is something which I mentioned in part 1, credit scores are not an exact science. Although there is 100% things you can do to improve it, that does not mean you'll get accepted for all things all the time. Each lender has a different set of rules for accepting you. So even if you have a top tier credit score, they might reject you, as they want people they can charge interest to and ultimately make money from. So please bear that in mind. And of course, none of the information in this video is financial advice. So please go away and do your own research and make sure you are doing what is the best for you in your situation. The first tip to improving your credit score is to actually check your credit report annually or before making a big application, such as a mortgage or a car loan, for example. These reports will be held at the 3 big credit reference agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, who will track all the financial data and build up your report. The reason you want to check in with your credit score is to make sure there are no errors on your file, as this may cause you being rejected. It might involve you going through it line by line, but it's always worth doing just to make sure there's no mistakes. It's generally a good idea to check in with all 3 of the agencies, as they might have different information about you. And critically, different lenders will use different agencies, so it's always worth checking in with them all. Next up, we have making sure you're on the electoral roll, which means you've registered to vote. If you're not signed up, it's a good idea to do this ASAP. It's pretty simple to do, just go online and go to gov.uk. Credit reference agencies are allowed to use the full register, and you cannot opt out of it, and technically, by law, you should be on it. Generally, they will pull information about your address from this. And if you are not on it, it can cause delays as lenders will use it to check your address and ID. So what can you do if you're not eligible to vote in the UK, meaning you're not on the electoral roll? Well, you can actually send all 3 credit reference agencies proof of residency, which consist of utility bills and driving licenses, for example. When you do this, you can ask them to add a note on your file to say they verified all this information. And again, this will help lenders and credit reference agencies know your address and prove you are who you say you are. Now we have one of the fundamentals when it comes to improving your credit score, and that is making sure you never miss or are late on credit repayments. Even though sometimes it can be tough to meet these payments if you have lots of debt, missing one of these can hang over your credit score and report for years to come, with your most recent late or missed payments affecting you the most. A good tactic to make sure you are never late or miss a payment is to make sure you set up a direct debit to pay off at least the minimum on your card or loan. Personally, I would always urge people to pay off everything they owe in full every single month. But if you're having cash flow issues, you can set up a direct debit to pay off the minimum, then manually overpay the rest during the month. But if possible, try and pay off everything every single month. Next on the list, we have making sure you do not let your friends, families, or partners ruin your score. If you have a joint product with someone else, you will become financially linked with them. So before you jump in with anyone, make sure you know what their credit history is like. It might sound a bit out there, but asking for a copy of their credit report is not outrageous in my opinion. And chances are, if they kick off, they might actually be hiding something from you, which could, down the line, end up being a mark against you if you become financially linked with them. There are normally 4 things which will constitute a joint product, which are a joint mortgage, joint loan, a joint bank account, and utility bills. So if you do not want to become financially linked with someone else, you might have to start looking for a workaround for these issues. But even at the start of a relationship, I believe these are important conversations to have. You do not want to be financially linked to someone who has a bad history with credit. If you have a chat with them and they do have bad credit, do them a favour and send them these videos. But if you've had a joint account and you end up splitting up, make sure you financially de-link yourself from them. You can do this by contacting the credit reference agencies and ask for a notice of disassociation. You do not want their credit affecting you longer than it has to. Next up, we have making sure you do not apply for too much credit at one time. For example, do not be applying for 3 new credit cards, a mortgage, a car loan, and getting a new phone contract within the same couple of months. All these applications will stick on your report, and if you're going after lots of credit at once, it may come across as you're desperate for credit, and it might mean you're a more riskier person to lend money to. You can check online eligibility calculators, which tend to do a soft credit check, which is something I explained in part 1. These are not permanent on your file and normally give you a good idea if you'll be accepted for a loan or not. And it's certainly worth being tactical about when you apply for credit, and try and think at least 1 year in advance, if not 2. Something which you might have not even thought about is checking your old addresses on old bank accounts or credit cards. Even if you do not use them anymore, they will still be on your credit report. And if you've moved addresses and have 2 addresses, this can cause confusion about where you actually live, and in worst case could actually lead to you being rejected for credit. So make sure everything is up to date with your details. Sometimes you can get stuck in an endless loop when applying for credit. You will apply, get rejected, then apply somewhere else and carry on getting rejected. And this carries on and on and on. So if you do get rejected, do not go straight back out there and start applying again. You should always check your file to see what it says on your report. If they have actually made a mistake, you might be able to get this removed by speaking to your lender and credit reference agency. But like I said earlier, before you even think about it, make sure you use an eligibility calculator online to see what chance it gives you of getting a loan. Normally over 70% is pretty good and you should get approved. So for 90% of people, this is the way to improve your score the most. Get a credit card and make sure you do all of your normal spending on it. And make sure you pay it off in full every month. And if you want to become a points guy like me, then you can even earn air miles by spending money on certain credit cards. If that sounds like your bag, I will link my video about how to travel the world for free at the end of this one. Generally, your credit score is using your past behavior to predict your future behavior. So by proving you can be trusted with credit, it provides positive feedback that you're a safe bet, and the longer this goes on, the better for you. This is the same with any credit. It could be a mortgage or a car loan. It will show you can pay back credit on time. Now, if you're someone who has bad credit, then there are cards out there where you can rebuild your credit score. Don't get me wrong, they might charge you higher interest on it. So make sure that you pay it off every single month in full. But I would only do this if you've paid down all of your highest interest debt first. Sometimes you can move everything to 0% credit cards, which is actually a good option. But make sure you always pay off as much debt as possible before the end of the 0% period. Next one is a never ever. Do not even think about withdrawing any cash out with a credit card. You'll end up picking your kicks up if you do, as it's horribly expensive to do so. And more importantly, it shows lenders poor money management skills, as it's a sign you're desperate, as technically anything that is on a credit card is the bank's money and not yours. So the way to think about it is only spend money on a credit card if you've got the money sitting there in a bank. Luckily now there are schemes where private renters and social housing tenants can boost up their credit rating. This would be a really good thing to sign up for, as it can prove you can pay someone back every single month on time, which is all lenders are actually looking for. Now of course this comes with the stipulation that you need to make sure you're paying back your rent on time. If you miss a payment, this will also be marked against you. So make sure it's a top priority if you do this. There are 3 schemes you can sign up for. Rental Exchange Initiative, which will need your landlord or social housing provider to sign up for as well. Or there are 2 options which you can sign up for called Canopy or Credit Ladder. I've no experience of either of them, so make sure you do some research about them online. But this could be an easy win for the renters in the room. Time for another never ever. Never get a payday loan. These things can follow you around for a long time. Some payday loan companies will say you can actually build up your credit with them. This might be slightly true, but do not even risk jumping into bed with them. If you've got bad credit and are looking to build up your score, use one of the rebuild cards I spoke about earlier. Not only are these loans some of the most expensive around, some mortgage underwriters, who are the people who choose if you get a mortgage or not, have said they will just flat out reject anyone who's had a payday loan, as it shows poor money management. So do not even bother getting involved with it. Next up, we have one which is similar to checking your addresses on your old accounts. And that's making sure you use consistent information and details across all your applications. This will come down to making sure you use the same name. So if you use the middle name, make sure you use it across all your applications. And make sure the address and job titles are the same as well. All this stuff makes it easier to identify you. And if stuff does not match up, you could be flagged up for fraud, which is a surefire way to get rejected. Sometimes big changes can happen in your life, like having kids. So if you know you might be off work for a while on maternity leave, it might be worth making a big application before you do. As generally, it's better off to do this stuff while you're still working. As in lenders' eyes, you are more stable. So making a big application before a life change is also a good tip. In part 1, I spoke about the different things which can make up your credit score. and one of them is how long you've had an account for. So this next tip is a fine balance, and it involves cancelling any cards which you do not use anymore. But if you've had them for a long time, it might be good for your score. But on the flip side, it lowers the amount of credit you have, so you might be able to get some more lending if you cancel some cards. I would say if you've not used a card within the last 2 years and you do not need it, you can probably cancel it. Like I just mentioned earlier, reducing the amount of credit you have is a good idea, especially if you're paying lots of interest on it. So using any savings you have to pay down high interest debt is a really good idea. Start with the highest interest rate, then work your way down if you have a few different loans. This is a really good idea if you're looking to get a mortgage, as this is normally a large amount of money. So freeing up some space by paying down your debt will take the pressure off, and chances are you might be accepted. Believe it or not, paying for your insurance monthly can affect your credit score, as you're essentially loaning money off the insurance company at a high interest rate. This is part of the reason why it's always cheaper to pay it off in one go. So if you can save up the money during the year and pay it off in one go on a credit card, then pay it off straight away, this will seriously help build up your credit score. Or if you're young and can't afford to do this, look at getting a 0% interest credit card and pay it off during the year. I hope you guys have taken some tips away from this video. And if you've got any tips yourself, please let me know them in the comments below. Do not forget to be an absolute legend and hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to check out part 1 of this series, take a look at it here. And if you want to know how to travel the world for free with credit cards, have a look at this video now. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Cheers.